The background of what's going on today is that Milwaukee Democrats were invited to the NAACP debate. They sent a signed letter to the Milwaukee NAACP detailing reasons why they will not be joining the debate. The vast majority of Milwaukee Democrats are not wanting to debate Black Republicans. There are two who didn't sign on to the Milwaukee Democratic letter. Those two are being Representative Lakeisha Myers and Michelle Bryant. And we would like to thank them in wanting to join in on the debate tomorrow. That being said, a vast majority of Milwaukee Democrats are ducking this debate and robbing this community the exchange of ideas. With that being said, now I'd like to introduce Orlando Owens, candidate for the 11th Assembly District.
How's everybody doing today? How's everybody doing today?
Great.
My name is Orlando Owens, and I'm the chairperson of the Milwaukee North branch of the Republican Party of Milwaukee County. And let me start by saying this. This is not what democracy looks like. If Black lives matter, and they do, Black voices should also. Black opinion, Black input, and feedback is vitally important in these tough times. My opponent, Dora Drake, has chosen not to attend this debate for reasons that I would just call, well, they've been addressed by the NAACP. My opponent can go to the good people of Glendale and debate in their forum, but fail to come to the good people of Milwaukee. Yet and still wants the people, Black people in Milwaukee, to vote for them. This is about the opportunity to present yourself as a candidate or for re-election, your ideas for the future and how you address them. You owe it to the community, this African American community, about what you want to see this future, our plans for the future in our communities. This is your obligation. That is part of your job, is to present yourself to the people. And now as Republicans, for so long have been criticized for not being in the Black community. This office is here in the Black community, and we're trying. And this is the response we get from not debating at the oldest civil rights organization, which I am a member of myself. I find it disrespectful that you feel not privileged and are honored to come debate in front of these good people. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to the next candidate.
Next, I'd like to introduce Tim Rogers, candidate for the 4th Congressional District.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tim Rogers. I am the candidate for the 4th Congressional District. I was the candidate in 2018 for the 4th Congressional District. And this not having a debate is unheard of by historical NAACP that set it up. And the Democrats not wanting to participate is a slap in the face of our community. They say they care about the community. They take us for granted for our votes. They have been doing it for years. It's time to bring that to an end and hear us, what we as Black Republicans, for the community, for the entire district, we are trying to make things work and move forward, unified in this country. With that, I'll pass it on. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Evie Eisenbach, candidate for the 17th Assembly District.
When I was thinking of running, I spoke with my wife and we decided that the best thing to do is to meet as many people as we can and tell them what changes we wanted to make. We had a debate this past Thursday with my opponent, which went very well. And personally, I consider it an honor for a young Jewish man to be invited to this NAACP debate, an honor and a privilege. And for my opponent to not show up and actually decline coming and so on and so forth, I'm sad for the city of Milwaukee that he won't even bother to show up for this debate. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Cairo Deacon, candidate for the State Senate District 6.
Good morning.
For me, not showing up to a debate with the NAACP is unconscionable. We are living in the hub of black and brown disparities. The NAACP for years has fought for black and brown people. So to decline an invite to have a talk and discuss the issues of the people, for me, it's unacceptable, and I couldn't see myself doing that. We need to come together. We need to talk. We need to figure these things out together. And debates is one of the ways that we are able to come together and rationalize and find out, discover new solutions to help the community.
Now, I'd like to introduce Rebecca Clayfish, who helped in recruiting a lot of these candidates.
Good morning, everyone. It is disappointing to me when I hear Cairo and Tim and Evie and Orlando, who just want to have an exchange of ideas, be disappointed at the fact that Democrat opponents are unwilling to have a civil conversation and political discourse in front of potential future constituents. To me, this is a move that is disrespectful to the NAACP. It's disrespectful to these candidates who are out there working hard every day to convince voters why their policy ideas are the change agent policy ideas to usher in a renaissance in Milwaukee. And frankly, it's really disrespectful to the voters of these districts and all of Milwaukee, because they don't care so much about the process and a civil exchange of ideas as they do about resting on their laurels and making the insulting assumption that people are simply going to vote for them. Our candidates want a shot. They want to be able to tell people and have an exchange of ideas what they think about how we succeed in Milwaukee and how we succeed as a state. They're being denied that opportunity. I think that's a shame.
And finally, I'd like to introduce Andrew Hitt, Chairman of the Republican Party of Wisconsin.
Well, thank you everybody for being here today. Thank you all for stepping up and running. And thank you for your help in recruiting these candidates, Lieutenant Governor. We opened this office here in the heart of the Bronzeville neighborhood because we wanted to be part of this community. We wanted to talk to people about issues that they care about and that are meaningful to them. One of the ways to do that is to have a debate where we can debate the issues of the day and the different policy choices and decisions. And as everybody said, it's absolutely tragic that so many Democrats have refused to debate our candidates. I'm grateful that Michelle Bryant and Lakeisha Myers were willing to debate. I think that speaks highly of them, but it's just unacceptable for the others to decline to debate these candidates who have stepped up, who have sacrificed, who have put their name out there to go around in their communities and talk to the people in their communities about what they believe and why they believe it. So thank you again for being here. Thank you, candidates, for running. You guys are all doing a fantastic job. We greatly appreciate it. And now we'll take some questions.
I'm sorry, didn't Craig Royal from NAACP send a letter apologizing for the handling of the debate, saying, I wish that a virtual option had been considered, raising questions about the potential conflicts of interest of the chair of the PAC who handled this, and saying, it looks like he said, I offer you my sincerest apology for this terrible breakdown of communication. So it looks like the NAACP is apologizing and saying virtual debate should have been offered. Do you agree with that?
So let's be clear. This is not the NAACP's fault at all. Virtual options or the initial option to have an in-person small social distance procedures in place were in place. And that was a pathway forward. Unfortunately, there was another move to make it Zoom. So every issue that was in that letter was spelled out. The young man that you're talking about is Chris Johnson, the author and creator of Clayfish, who's also an entrepreneur, who worked on my campaign to do a database for me for vouchers. As an organization I'm a member of, we're all volunteers at NAACP. We all have our own businesses, our own professional lives. That is not a conflict of interest. He is not the moderator. He's purely just the organizer of the event, bringing all the candidates together, laying out a format, and getting the people to the table and promoting it.
I think clearly it was the Democrats who decided not to debate who we are here to express our disappointment, not the NAACP.
I had a question here. I was wondering if some of the candidates or one of the candidates could talk about the diversity of opinion that exists in the African American community and whether you think that's sort of underreported or that people don't maybe realize how robust the diversity of opinion is.
Yes, when I'm going through and talking with different individuals, I'm finding that the diversity of opinion is very vast. I've spoken with people that have Obama shirts on, and they really don't care. They don't care about party. They want someone that's going to go in and get the job done and represent them. They're tired of partisan politics. They want us to work together and heal this community and drive it forward. So it's very diverse, and I'm happy to have found that.
Yeah, I have two quick questions. One is that you're suggesting that it's denying candidates the opportunity to share their message, which in fact it's not, right? I mean, you're calling out your Democrats for not being more forthcoming, but these candidates have the opportunity to share their message, true?
They do have an opportunity to share their message, but I think we can all agree that a debate is highlights the opportunity to really share the message, but also contrast, which is very important when a voter is deciding who to vote for.
And you, in your release for this news conference, are calling them out for refusing to debate black candidates. Are you suggesting that race is playing into this decision somehow?
We're suggesting that they have refused to really acknowledge, by refusing to debate, they're really refusing to acknowledge that these candidates are here and that they're running. And so I think that's the part that we're concerned about. We want to have an opportunity to contrast our views. We'll do that. We'll continue to do that. But having a debate is a very effective way to do that. And that's what we'd like to see forward. I'm perplexed what they are worried about. Are they scared to debate our candidates? Are they scared to stand up for the policies that they've put forward or are saying they're going to put forward? Are they scared to talk about the policies in the past of policies of President Obama or Vice President Biden?
There have been some debates, right? Just not for this particular venue or audience.
Sure.
Well, let me go back to your previous question. As the senior, probably candidate up here, let's be clear about this thing about race among black Republicans and black Democrats. We've all been called names from coons, Uncle Toms, and sellouts. We're just men and women who have an idea that may be different, that we bring a set of values to the table, creativity. So yes, let's be clear about how dismissive sometimes the political parties can be about being black and being a Republican. Even amongst us, and my Jewish buddy as well too, we have a variance of ideas on what we approach the Republican Party as. The R for us means something different for all of us, reforms and new ideas and creativity. We all don't think alike as far as even the ideas that we talk about every day. Even amongst us, we have different views.
Just to clarify, was a virtual debate not offered? And then also, why is Michelle Bryant participating? Because she lost her primary.
Sure. So the initially, there was not a virtual, because we were following the same protocols, from my understanding, of the organizers and the people who were part of the planning of typical debates that we've seen through the presidential debates, Senate races up until this point. They all had to practice social distancing, and so initially that was a plan. We had the room was going to be very limited in the size, masks were going to be worn all throughout the entire process. So that option initially was the plan. Then, when Congresswoman Gwen Morris left, she was concerned, and other candidates were concerned about Corona, which is fine. So they went to a virtual. And your second question was, I'm sorry, Michelle Bryant.
Yeah.
As a write-in, she did lose in the primary, but as a write-in, she can continue her bid. And so they felt it was a good idea to let her come on board, come in as a writer. So she has that opportunity as any American, as any candidate to do so.
Mr. Owens, I'm curious, you talked about the difference you have with the Democrats on issues, you want a chance to debate them. What would you say are the key issues that you say, or you would like to debate them on, and where you have the biggest differences with them?
I think first, let's be clear when we set the table of discussion of what candidates can bring from Milwaukee as Republicans. We know the Republicans have the vast majority of votes in Madison. So when we talk about criminal justice reforms, lead laterals, school funding, policy changes, if there's going to be a change with the Republican, makeup right now, we will be the ones that have the best inroads and the best opportunity to do so. So often we hear people who call us on talk radio, who hit us on Facebook, and say, well, those Republicans won't change anything. You guys are just wasting time. They won't change anything. My question to you all and to them, if we don't got a chance, how in the world do you think the Democrats got a chance? Honestly. So don't count us out by saying you can't do the impossible, but you think the other side can do the impossible. Something doesn't jive here. So our approach are going to be very systematic and very thought out. Each candidate has their own views about criminal justice reform, how we address the coronavirus and healthcare. We all have various opinions. Let it happen. So I hope that answers your question.
Guys, we have time for two more. Democrats, Chairman Hitt, are doing they're doing a bus tour right now with a lot of local Democrats. Obviously you guys are out visible here right now. You're not campaigning though. How can, I'm just right here. Obviously, you're doing campaign events. I know you have several.
That would be news to me.
Even today, yeah. How can you get out the vote as Democrats are trying to reverse the trend from 2016 when there wasn't a lot of turnout in Milwaukee?
So focusing right here in Milwaukee, I mean, we've been organizing here in Milwaukee for almost 4 years now. Kenzer has really led the way on that. Opening this office was another major step. We were able to put together, thanks to Lieutenant Governor Clayfish, a recruitment program to recruit candidates. We've recruited volunteers. We've been doing door knocking. We have lit that we are distributing. We are doing events in this office. We are doing a direct mail program. Kenzer and Gerard Randall have started a radio show on WNOV called New Voices that has 60 minutes of airtime per week right now. So we've done a lot to bring forward our ideas, our thoughts, but we've also wanted to make sure that we've listened to people in the community and learned what's important to folks in the Black community, in the Hispanic community, so that we can bring those back, as Orlando said, back to Madison when they're elected. So, this is an effort that we have really never undertaken here in Wisconsin. This is the first time in the history of the Republican Party of Wisconsin that we've had an actual office in the city of Milwaukee here in the central city. So we're going on offense. We're competing for votes. We have issues that we can run on. You think about the issues and the policy decisions that the president has put forward with the First Step Act, with opportunity zones, with increased funding for historically Black colleges and universities, his views and policies that support school choice. Our Republican legislators here in Wisconsin have been champions of school choice. We have issues to run on. We have issues to talk about to both the Black and the Hispanic community that are meaningful to them. And we're going to continue to do that throughout this cycle. And I expect that very much that we are going to gain votes in this community.
Time for one more, guys.
You mentioned Chris Johnson, and I know he drew some criticism a few years ago for using some racially charged language against Ashanti Hamilton, Black faith leaders. Do you think part of this had to do with concerns about Chris?
So I want him to have the last word. Before I answer that, I also want to put this out here. We just saw yesterday in the news that we are approaching the highest homicide rate in Milwaukee since 1991. So let's get honest and be real about the issues that we're facing and the challenges of Milwaukee. We need real leadership that has solutions, ideas, and also be compassionate at the same time. And we can be, someone who can be a problem solver. That's not a problem identifier. So to your question about Chris Johnson, I think we should pose that question to him. He is a writer and also an entrepreneur, so I think I would defer that question to him and let you guys decide that for yourself.
think to Orlando's point, we have the opportunity in this election in Milwaukee to vote for change agents who you see here today in our headquarters on MLK, or the party that is the architect of the status quo. To us, this is not about packaging of candidates. This is about perspective of candidates and about lessons that we have learned as a party. There is a very important reason that we are planted here and we're not going away. It's because we value the votes on the north side of Milwaukee. We value African American voters, and we want to make sure that we are representing inside our party those perspectives, because Orlando and so many of the other candidates here are right. The disparities are far too many, and they are vast. Violent crime in Milwaukee is not something Wisconsin should be proud of. The mortality rate in Milwaukee is not something Wisconsin can be proud of. The educational disparities in Milwaukee is not something that Wisconsin can be proud of. And in order to fix it, we need to make sure that we are not just doing outreach alone, because outreach alone is not it. We need people inside the party representing these perspectives and doing great things with policies that are evidence-based, assuring that they will work, but we need them working here in Milwaukee, and these candidates' voices must be heard. And one of the best ways they are heard is in an exchange of ideas in a civil debate, which unfortunately, under these circumstances, these guys are being denied, and it's a shame.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.